Hi there, I'm Sumit Bansal, and in this video I'm going to show you how to combine two or more columns in Excel using various different methods. Now some of the methods are going to be foolproof, so they are going to work in all the versions of Excel, and some methods are going to use new Excel version formulas, so you would need to have Excel with Microsoft 365, and I will also show you how to do this using Power Query. So let's see what these are. So let me start with the first two methods that are going to work in all the versions of Excel, and that is by using the ampersand sign or the concat function. So here I have this data where I have the first name and the last name, and I want the full name in column C. So what I can do is simply select this cell, then use an ampersand. Now ampersand is going to add whatever cell I'm going to now reference. So in this case, I'm going to add a delimiter, which could be a space character or a comma that you want between the first name and the last name. So let's go with a space character and then ampersand again and then the last name. And in this case, I'm going to just show you two columns, but you can do it with as many columns as you want. So now when I hit enter, it gives me this name and I can copy this down. Now, if you are using dynamic arrays and you have a new version of Excel, you can also reference the entire column. So instead of A2, I can use this entire range, and instead of B2, I can use this entire range, and it is going to spill and give me the same result. Now this is going to work in all the versions of Excel, and you can also use a formula version of this, which is by using the concat function. So here I have the concat function. Now there is also a concatenate function, which is an older version, and Excel recommends that you use the concat function if you have it, but if you don't, you can use the concatenate function as well. Now concat function works the same way. Here I have the first reference, then the delimiter, and then the second reference of the second column. And now when I get this result, I can copy this down. Now the problem with this method is, compared to the ampersand, is I cannot use the entire range. For example, here if instead of A2 I select A2 to A11, and instead of B2 I select this entire range, see what happens when I hit enter. It gives me everything in one single cell because it doesn't know what it needs to combine. It takes everything as one single thing. So this is not going to work. You will have to first put it in one cell and then you'll have to copy it down. And this is why in most of the cases, if I have to quickly do this, I prefer using the ampersand. Now let me show you how to do this by using the TEXTJOIN function, which is a newer function. So if you have access to it, that's a better way to do this. Now here again, I have the same data set and I want to combine the first and the last name by using a delimiter. It could be a comma, it could be a space character. So in this case, I can use the text join function. Now text join is a relatively new function. It is available since Excel 2019. So if you're using an older version of Excel, which many of you are still doing it, then you would not have access to this function. Then you'll have to resort to the ampersand or the concatenate function. Now in text join, I first need to specify the delimiter. So let's say the delimiter in this case is a space character. If you want a comma, you can put it here, or whatever delimiter you want, you can put it here. The second argument is whether you want to ignore empty cells or not, and it gives you these options whether you can choose to ignore them or you want to keep them. I would choose true, so I choose to ignore the empty cells, and then I need to specify the text that I want to combine. So in this case, I would choose first name here, then comma, and then the last name. And now when I hit enter, it gives me the name, and then I can copy it down. Now, just like the concat function here also, if I remove this and I try and I change A2 to this entire range and then change B2 to this entire range, see what happens when I hit enter. It again gives me the same thing. It does take the delimiter, but it gives me everything in one single cell. Now, if you do not want that, then you can use a slightly longer formula. So let me create that for you. And what I'm going to use is called function by row, which is going to do the processing row by row. So in this case, it asks for the array as the first argument. So I would select this. Then it asks me to create a function. Now it already has some built-in functions within it, but in this case I want to use the text join function, which is not already there. So in this case, I would just come and I would use the lambda function, and within the lambda function, now I can create any formula, any function I want. So here it takes a parameter. So the parameter in this case is going to be r, which is going to represent each row in the by row function, and then I can use the text join function. So here in text join, I can specify the delimiter. Let's say the delimiter is space character. Then I want to ignore empty cells. And then I want to combine the text. And the text is going to be in this row, which is going to go row by row. So I would just use, this argument, which is R here. And now when I hit enter, you can see it gives me the result where it goes row by row and it combines everything. So with one single formula, it spills and it gives you the result. Now, if you're thinking that this is slightly longer and the concat function that we saw was easier, or the ampersand was easier, there is one benefit in using the text join function. For example, in the ampersand case, in this here, I have a space as the delimiter. Let's say I have comma followed by space, just to show you the difference. So in this case, I have the first name followed by comma, then a space character, then the last name. But if I come here and I delete any of these cells, see what happens. It still gives me the comma, which is something that I may not want. So this is something that can easily be sorted with the text join function. And this is a problem with both ampersand and concat. If I come here and I do the same thing, if I remove this, it is still going to give me the delimiter. For example, let's say the delimiter in this case again is a comma, because you can't see the space, and I copy this down. You can see it still gives me the comma. But with text join, you can get rid of this problem. In this case, for example, if my delimiter is comma followed by space, so I have a comma followed by space as the delimiter, but if I come here and I delete any of them, you can see the comma followed by delimiter does not appear, because it is smart enough to recognize that there is only one cell, so it is not going to add that delimiter in front of that cell. Or if it is, let's say, the other way around, if I delete this one here, again it only gives you the last name, it doesn't give you a comma and then followed by the last name. So if you're using a newer version of Excel and you have text join, you can use this method. Now let me show you how to do this using flash fill. Now, flash fill is pretty awesome. It's like tiny bit of AI built right into Excel without access to any internet, without using any tools. So here what we do is we tell Excel what is the kind of result that we want. For example, in this case, if I manually type what I want, and then I go to the next cell, I can use a keyboard shortcut, which is Control E. So hold the Control key, press the E key, and it is going to recognize what you're trying to do. It recognizes that I'm trying to combine these two columns with space as a delimiter, and it gives me the result here. So it's just trying to match the pattern and follow the same thing. Let's say if I come here and I do it with something else, let's say this is followed by comma, and I do the same thing, you can see that it recognizes the pattern again and it gives you the result. Now, flash fill could be reliable if you have a simple data set, but flash fill, as I said, is based on pattern recognition, so it may make mistakes. So if you have a consistent data set that you can use flash fill, also the data here is static, so there is no formula, and if anything changes in your original data set, then you'll have to repeat this process. But it is so fast that in many cases I just reach out to flash fill rather than writing a formula. Now let me show you how to do this using Power Query. Now here I have the data set, and to be honest, Power Query is an overkill in this situation. But if this is something that you need to do and you're already using Power Query and it's already part of your workflow and you want to combine two columns, you can do that within the Power Query editor. So here I have this data. First, I'm going to convert it into an Excel table, because Power Query can open an Excel table easily into the Power Query editor. So I would select this data, hold Control key, press the T key. It opens this Create Table dialog box. So here I'm going to click on OK. And now I'm going to open this in Power Query. So right click on any of these cells, click on Get Data from Table Range. Now this is going to open the Power Query editor. And here you can see I have my data. Now, if I want to combine this, I would just select the first column, then the second column, then go to the Add Column tab here. And in this case, I have this option called Merge Columns. When I click on it, it is going to open the Merge Columns dialog box, and you can choose the separator. In this case, let me choose comma, and then you can give the name to the new column. Let's call this full name. And now when I click OK, you can see it has given me this data. Now obviously the separator is not right. It should have been comma followed by space character. If you want to change it, you can either do it from the formula bar here, or you can come here in the steps, query steps, and then you can click on this gear icon, and it is going to open the merge column. So if you click here, it opens the merge columns dialog box again, and you can make the change here. For example, in this case, I do not want comma. I rather would go with custom. So I would just come here and use comma followed by space. And now when I click OK, you can see I get my data here. Now, if you do not want these two names, you can get rid of them. If you want them, you can keep them. And then if you want this data back in Excel, then you can do that by coming here, clicking on File, and then clicking on Close and Load. And if you want to use this further, then you can continue to work in Power Query and then do whatever transformation you want to do. So this is how you can do this in Power Query. It's pretty easy to do. But as I said, if you want the data just within Excel, use the formula method or flash fill. And if you're anyway using Power Query, or you have to do more transformations to your data, then you can use Power Query. So these are the methods that you can use to quickly combine two columns. I've shown you two columns, but you can do the same thing with multiple columns as well. That's it in this video. I hope you found this useful. Also, if you're liking these videos, please subscribe to this YouTube channel and click on the bell icon so that you never miss out on any new Excel tips video I come up with. Thank you and have a nice day.